What is up everyone, welcome back for another video on Game of Thrones Kingsroad. Today we talk about the infinite stage of the Wormwalks with the Sellsword. I'm gonna explain to you the season effects, the two gauges you have on your character. I'm gonna talk about the different buffs the enemies can have and how to counter these buffs. I'm gonna explain to you which trait you need to take in the trait tree for the season and what build I used on my Sellsword to try to increase my efficiency for that content. Finally, after that, I'm gonna show you some parts of the fight because the fight took me 27 minutes in total, or maybe 30 minutes, I don't even remember. Let me know in the comments if you want to have the full fight. I'm gonna do that in a separate video, right? So let's get into it. In that content, you have two different gauges. The green one is the bonus gauge and the red one is the malus gauge. Basically, if you check the season effect, every time you land a skill, you accumulate 8% of the green gauge, and every time you land a strike combo, you accumulate 4% erosion gauge, and you get 3% erosion gauge every time you are taking some damage. So the goal here is basically to avoid using your combos, try to use only or mostly your skills, or try to balance the two gauges so you can cleanse the debuffs when you get them. If you check here, when you reach 40% on the green gauge, you can cleanse one stack of exhaustion and erosion on your character. Same when you reach 80%, and when you reach the 100%, you can basically cleanse all debuffs you have on your character. So you will remove everything accumulated with the red gauge here. Plus, you will block the accumulation of the red gauge during a set amount of time, alright? You are also decreasing your active skill cooldowns by filling up that gauge here, and you are decreasing the rage consumption as well, so the green gauge is very important. You need to use mostly your skills and try to reduce the cooldowns on your skills so you are more efficient in that content. If you have the broken sword with at least the first refinement, then every time you cast a skill, you have a 50% chance to remove all debuffs on your character. This is game changer for that content. And not only that, but without any refinement, the skill of that relic is absolutely great for that content. Every time you cast a skill, you are getting a buff on your character, increasing your active skill damage by 7% per stack, and decreasing all active skill cooldowns by 8%, and your rage consumption by 7% for 20 seconds. 4 stacks max. So you understand that with that you can cleanse your debuffs, you can get your cooldowns faster, and you have more damage with the skills and stuff like that. This is the absolute best relic for that content. Plus, the main stats are very interesting: attack power increase, and crit damage increase, and defense increase. But you don't really care, to be honest, about the defense in that content because some enemies can have some buffs hitting through your defense. The season increases your rage consumption by 50%, so one more time, the relic is very interesting here because it can lower the rage consumption of your character to cast some skills. Active skill damage plus 30%, and when you are casting a skill, you have a 30% chance to reduce the cooldown by 50% and to restore 85 rage. It can take effect every 10 seconds. In that content, you will have all the TRAT effects, the lightning strike, the tornado, and the poison pool, every single one on the terrain at once. So you need to be very careful because remember the season effect, every time you take some damage, you accumulate some erosion gauge. So when you take the tornado damage, the poison damage, or the lightning strike, you are filling up your erosion gauge, so be careful about that. Enemies can heal, but it can be removed when you're using a fire skill, or you can use that trait point here to block the heals of enemies. But personally, I'm not taking that because I'm using the Ignite Plus on my character, so most of the time I have some fire, they are never healing. So in my opinion, it is better to spend these 2 points somewhere else. Enemies will have a high chance to block attacks, but if you daze them, they won't be able to. This is normal because it happens to all enemies in the game. You don't care about that bonus, that buff here on them, alright? Enemies can enter the brute state, during which they are immune to hit stun and destroys enemy armor. So this is why I said before that your defense is not optimal in that content because they can ignore a part of your defense. But if you have things that are decreasing the damage you receive, then it is better than increasing your defense, alright? And when you take some hits from these enemies, you are losing some rage, so you need to be careful about taking some damage from the enemies, alright? Finally, they take less damage with the normal attacks, so one more time, the skills are better, alright? And you have some archers that will have the marksman, which means that basically they will shoot 2 arrows at once, or they will do a red attack, okay? So this is basically everything you need to know about the Wormwalks here. Let's talk quickly about the trait tree, and then I will show you the build I use with my Sellsword, alright? 2 nodes are very important according to me. First one is this one, the lifesteal. So every time you're casting some skills on the enemies, generally you deal high damage, so you can heal basically from 0 to your max HP in one skill only. This one is absolutely broken. You need to take this one in priority, alright? The second one, in my opinion, is this one, because you don't care about the light attack damage, okay? But you care about that second effect here. If you have at least 20% of the hit gauge filled on your character, then every time you're gonna use a light attack, you can fill the gauge by 1%. It can help you to balance your hit gauge and your erosion gauge. So just before getting all the debuffs on your character, if you're close to the 100%, for example, then use only light attacks. You are gonna cleanse all debuffs instantly, nullifying the 100% on the erosion gauge. This one is very, very important. Then these 2, I would take them in priority to increase your rage and gain some rage when you are getting some heat. So every 20% heat you are getting 20 rage. So this is very important to have this one as well. And then of course you want to take everything else to increase your damage. So the attack power, the damage, the crit rate, you have the attack speed and stuff like that. This is very interesting to have all of these. And on the other side, increase your HP, heal your character, decrease the damage you take, and increase your defense. These are very important too. One more time, the rage gain in priority on your character, so this node is very important too. For now, I was able to get a pretty good score, considering that I have only 25 points to allocate in the trait tree here. The max points you can accumulate is 45, so in the future I will have that node and way more things, so it's gonna be way more efficient. So if you are struggling at the moment, just wait a few days, accumulate the points in the season pass, and you will have more points in the trait tree. Alright, so now let me show you the gear I have on my character. At the moment, I'm using a full brute set, 5 pieces. So basically, with 3 sets, it's reducing my damage by 17%, and with 5 sets, it's reducing my damage taken by 45%, which is a lot. Basically, I'm using a champion piece of gear here instead of that purple, just because I'm lacking some hardness, so I can't have the Earth Strike Plus. If I have this here, I will reduce the damage by an extra minus 18% here and 48% instead of 45%. So I will be way more tanky for that content. So basically, with a full brute set level 19 on my character, let's check the damage I'm taking. 959 in one hit, 1000, 750, so basically in average 950, something like that for now. Now I have a 20% more erosion gauge and I'm starting to take more damage, of course. So you need to be careful about that gauge, alright? Let's just replace that, so I'm losing 3 levels on the brute set, and let's see how much damage I'm taking that time. 1169 maximum. So 60 more damage than before. So 3 levels matters a lot on the set, as you can see here. So the higher the rarity you have on your gear with the brute set, the better. I'm not saying that the brute set is the best one to use in that content though, because your HP is limited, and I'm just showing you the efficiency here, alright? So now let's just replace my pieces of gear here. I'm just gonna replace the weapons, so I'm not losing some defensive stats. And that time I have only 3 pieces of gear from the brutes, alright? So let's see how much damage I'm taking that time with 3 pieces of the brute set. 3200, but now I have 34,000 HP on my character. And now I don't have the brute set anymore equipped on my character, so let's check the damage I'm taking that time. 3700 with 1 hit. Almost 4k. So I am dying faster than before, of course I am. But the brute set is not only reducing the damage you take, it's also increasing by a lot the damage you deal. Plus a 17% damage deal, 10 plus a 30% here. So this is very nice, and you have some more lifesteal. So the higher the rarity on your gear, the better for your character. And I suppose that the brute set is probably the best set to equip if you have at least the level 19 or close to that. So you will have a lot of lifesteal, a lot of damage decrease, and a lot of damage increase on your character. For the set research, I'm using the SAVANT set. Basically, I prefer using the SAVANT set instead of the TEMPEST. I know that some players recommend to use the TEMPEST, but the thing is that when you are using the SAVANT, you are gaining more rage in that content. More attack power, more rage, more active skill damage, and you can reduce the cooldowns on your skills every time you kill an enemy. You have only 20% chance, but you have a lot of enemies, so it happens very often in the content, alright? In the Tempest, with the Tempest, you have more damage dealt, so you can cast that at 10 times on your character, and you can decrease by 50% the cooldowns on your skills every time you stack at 10 times the buffs here. It's great as well, but you are not gaining more rage, so it's good to have your cooldowns on skills, but if you don't have the rage accumulated, you can't cast your skills anymore, so in my opinion, the 7 set is better in that content. So these are the pieces of gear I have. Ignite Plus on the helmet, so this is the reason why it is blue. If I equip this one, I will have a better efficiency, but unfortunately I don't have the Ignite Plus if I equip that helmet on my character. So I need some hardeners, alright? So I'm using that blue helmet for now. On the chest, I have a Roar Plus. I need one more time something to recast the skill here because I'm not using the Roar. And I have damage taker and decrease versus bosses by 2%. I don't care. No down duration, I don't care. So one more time. I could have way better for my character here. For the gloves, I have a champion set, Earth Strike Plus, with HP max roll here. I need to do the same for the brute set. It would be better. I would have 2 more levels on the brute set. It would be more efficient, so I need to work on that. But one more time, I have the purple gloves here. I need some hardeners if I want to recast the skill here. On the boots, I have this one with a Violent Charge Plus, and by the way, I'm using that skill because you have a very low cooldown and a low amount of rage consumption for that skill, so it is a great skill for that content. Plus, it deals a lot of daze damage, and this is very nice in that content. Damage decrease 2.1%, very interesting. I have a 2 legendary weapon tier 5 reforge 3 times. Shockwave plus 3 on the main weapon for a strike. This is my main skill, so this is a very good weapon. But unfortunately for the rest, I have nothing very good. Penetrating power 20, parry-linked attack I'm never parrying, and attack power plus 4%. This is the minimum proc here, so it could be better. If I have some hardeners later, I will refill all the things here, but I will try to lock the shockwave here. For the secondary weapon, I have a Pursue plus 3 on Violent Charge, and this is very interesting, so it's increasing my light attack speed by 10% for 8 seconds after casting the Violent Charge. This is very interesting. Plus, the substats are very interesting too. Attack power 5%, attack power 100, and light attack speed 2.4%. For the jewelries, I'm using that necklace, a crit damage increase as main stat, damage increase 2.3, light attack speed 3.3, damage on bosses 11%, we don't really care for the Wormwalks, attack power 3%, which is the minimum proc, but whatever. On the earrings, they are plus 10 only, so it could be better in the future. Active skill damage is 6%. I need to work on the levels if I want to have some more defense on my character, it could help. And same comment about the substat here, I need to work on these to have a better defenses on my character. For the rings, I'm using a crit rate one, 4% more, with penetrating power 30, damage dealt on bosses 4.5%, an extra 2.4% on bosses, and damage increase of 4.2%. So this is not optimal for that content. For the second ring, I'm using an HP recovery 1, just because it's a plus 18, so I have more attack power at the base here, very interesting for my character. Plus, it's increasing my attack power by an extra 4.8% here. Damage dealt on bosses 5.1%. Rage when I'm using a sneak attack, it doesn't help for that content. And crit rate 4.8%, so this is pretty nice. For the amulet, for now, I have only a purple one, increasing my skill damage by 10% and my rage by 18, so clearly not optimal. But the thing is that I already have the design to craft the legendary version of it, but I am lacking some materials. I wasn't very unlucky on that, so I hope that on the next KRAKEN week, I'm gonna have the 3 remaining tentacles here. And I hope that I will have some good substats as well. It would help. For the skills, I have Earth Strike Plus. Unfortunately, I don't have Pulverize. That would be awesome if I could get that. So I will have way more damage on targets with Destruction. I need to work on that. Shockwave plus 3, so I have a lot of AoE attack, 5 more attacks, dealing some damage based on my attack power, and Earth Strike Plus, so I have 5 hits on the ground. My best skill ever in the game, alright? And by the way, something very interesting about that skill, I don't know why it's like that, but it refills twice your hit gauge when casting the skill. So 16% in total instead of 8% only with another skill. Ignite Weapon Plus, unfortunately I don't have Armed Conflict, I need to work on that as well, so it will be more efficient to have more attack power for the content, alright? So I did 1,500 points in that content without being optimal on my character, so this is to tell you that the character is very interesting for that content. Finally, Violent Charge Plus. So I have 2 hits, I'll deal a lot of daze damage. This is the best skill for that. It has the lowest cooldown in the game and the lowest rage requirements as well. So that skill, you can almost spam it if you have the broken sword, and this is very interesting. I have a Pursue +3, so every time I'm casting the skill, I increase my ALLOT attack speed by 10% for 8 seconds, and it helps a lot as well in that content. For the basic skills, I'm using the strike combo 1 with these on the right. So with these 2 here, I can basically accumulate some destruction on the target to increase my damage, and I'm using this one here so I increase the damage of my strike combo 1. Finally, for the artifact, I'm using the twin axes here as main active skill, so it can reduce the cooldown on my skills and give me some rage. So right after the erosion is at 100%, I wait for the end of the debuff so I can cast the skill with the twin axes and get my rage back and use some skills and feel the hit gauge again. So this is the best artifact to have in that content, alright? And finally, for that content, I'm using the broken sword on that character. This is the trait tree I decided to go with. Basically, everything into the attack here. My goal is to kill the enemies as fast as I can. I know that some players are nerfing intentionally their crit damage here to put some points in the support tree so they have more rage, they gain more rage as well, and they are taking that to increase their attack power. And it's interesting to get this one as well to decrease the cooldown on your skills by 10% maximum here. But it requires 25 points to allocate in here, so it's a lot. You can do whatever you want, I prefer going with that. And King Gay is very important, so when you are using a projectile, you are gaining 25% rage back on your character. The description is wrong here, it's not increasing your ranged attack damage, but it's refilling 25% of your rage. Super strong for that content. So attack power first, then a crit rate, and finally crit damage. This is what I am doing at the moment. Finally, this is my momentum, and these are my base stats. I have a pretty nice amount of attack power, and if you want to increase these base stats, there are 2 ways to achieve that. First, the artifact restoration rate. You can upgrade all your blue artifacts first because it doesn't require a lot of materials to do so. And by doing that, if you click on details here, you will increase your overall restoration progress, increasing your stats permanently. So these are the stats given by my artifact, by the equipped one and by the non-equipped one. So 29,000 momentum given by the artifact not equipped on my character. These are all the stats it's giving to me, so this is very important. 53,000 momentum given by my artifact only. The second way to accumulate some permanent stat on your character is to farm the set research. Basically, by upgrading all the levels here, you are getting some permanent stats on your character. And by the way, every time you level up a set research to +10, you are getting 1 more level on the set effects. Basically, it means that you will have a bit more stats given here. And if you want to farm the set research, I recommend to do the hideouts with your 3 characters. You will have a lot of gear, and I recommend to farm the bandit camps. You will have sometimes some purple from one set, you will have some blue all the time almost for some specific sets, a lot of crafting materials, a crazy amount of copper, and do the echoes of the past as well, so you will get some materials to craft. And if you want some iron ore to craft some more, basically every week, go to every town, speak to the blacksmith, and purchase 30 iron ore per blacksmith in every time, 1 time per week, 1 time per account. You will have a lot, you can craft a lot of things with that, and basically by crafting the gear, this is what I am focusing on at the moment. I am crafting the gear of the Guardian set, and it is already level 30, and I'm doing that to level up my character to get a lot of permanent stats. A few important things before getting into the content: make sure that you are asking your alliance leader to purchase the alliance bonus when it is level 3, so you need to reach the alliance level 8 for that. You get +7% attack power and +7% defense. It's gonna help you a lot in that content. Make sure as well that before entering the content, you have a bonus given by a God's Haven. Personally, I prefer taking the ones in the last region of the Stormlands, So you are getting not only some attack power, but you're also decreasing the damage taken by 15%, and these two buffs for 30 minutes. Finally, make sure that you're crafting and using these potions. These are by far the best you can have in game. It requires a lot of materials, but don't worry, I'm working on the production and trading video guide at the moment, so you will know exactly what workers you need to have if you want to have the materials required for these potions. For 30 minutes, it's giving to you plus 15% max HP, 20% HP recovery, 8% crit rate, 10% active skill casting speed, and 10% attack power. So this is the most broken thing you have in the game. Something else very important to craft, the enraging powder. So if you need some rage after a debuff, a malus from the erosion gauge, for example, if you are using that powder here, you can recover the cooldowns on your skills and it can help you in a very tough situation. Alright guys, as always, a lot of blah blah, but you have all the details now on how to perform better with your character in that content, how to have more permanent stats. And now I'm gonna show you a few parts of my fight. Let me know in the comments if you want to see the entire fight. I'm gonna publish the video later if it is the case, but it takes 30 minutes, so this is the reason why I decided to put only some parts of the fight in that video. So let me know about it, guys. Have a really nice day, take care, see you on the next one, bye bye. Oh, and by the way, I almost forgot about it, but try to kill the ranged enemies first if you don't want to be surprised by a ranged hit and die during your run.